Part 3. And this is coming off the heels of Judgment Day, where Jericho successfully retained against MVP, and Richie Steamboat was the referee. And Richie had taken a lot of abuse from Jericho in this match. He could have disqualified him. He just could not find it in himself to have the courage to do that, and he pinned MVP's shoulders down, and Jericho retained. And it's once again not Steamboat's breakthrough moment. So the night after, Jericho, the successful defending retaining champion, comes out and says, "Okay, I'm still the champion, and Richie Steamboat did the right thing. He did the right thing, and now I'm going to give him a chance to get my respect. I'm going to give him a chance to get my respect, and if he takes this chance and succeeds, then I will work under him. I will be behaved, and I will no longer undermine his run as general manager of this show." Now Steamboat jumps on it, and he has to run the gauntlet. He has to run the gauntlet against three opponents of Jericho's choosing, because Steamboat's a wrestler. He's not an experienced wrestler, but he's a wrestler nonetheless. So he has to run the gauntlet and face three opponents of Jericho's choosing. He's out of his depth, but he just wants Jericho's respect so much that he jumps at this opportunity to get Jericho's respect. And he says yes without thinking of the consequences. Once again, the naivete of Steamboat is shown, it's showcased. He jumps into this without really thinking about it, and it comes back to haunt him by the end of the night. Because right off the bat, his first opponent is none other than MVP. MVP, who was Steamboat's friend, his closest friend on Raw, up until this night, now shows up as his first opponent, looking pretty pissed at Steamboat. Steamboat is taken aback, shocked, and he asks, MVP, what's going on? You're my guy, you're my man, you're my friend. Why are you here looking at me like I'm the worst nightmare in the world? MVP blames Steamboat for losing at Judgment Day, and at Backlash too, I suppose. He said that Jericho was out of line throughout that whole match, and you could have done something about it, but you did not do that. You're a failure as a referee, you're a failure as general manager. I can no longer stick up for you because you're just not getting it. And now, because you've cost me the championship, I'm going to get my revenge on you. His argument isn't entirely valid, because he lost fair and square, technically, because Jericho didn't actually cheat. He just really he really toed the line. But so that means that MVP is turning heel. He's not entirely unreasonable, but he is stretching beyond reasonable argument. So he is turning heel, and after a few minutes of a match, Steamboat cannot get into the match. He cannot really focus on the match because he's just too taken aback at MVP's turning on him. So a few minutes later, MVP hits the Playmaker. It's all over. Steamboat loses his first opponent, the Gauntlet. He loses. This is pretty much the lowest point for Steamboat right now. It's the lowest point for him. There's no way he can go any lower than this. He was supposed to run the Gauntlet, and he loses the first opponent. This is horrible. He's at his lowest point. It's now almost beyond sympathy, where the fans just almost lose hope. There's just hardly any hope left. That is the aim here, just to show there's hardly any hope left. After MVP basically squashes him, Jericho comes out and assaults Steamboat, because Steamboat did not earn his respect. Steamboat failed yet again because he could not focus on the match. He took MVP's turning on him too hard. He's not prepared to deal with the harshness of the wrestling world, and so Jericho assaults him for that. And we once again thinking to ourselves, come on Steamboat, you have to get this, and you have to get it soon. You have to just really understand what you have to do. But this is just his lowest point. His lowest point probably in this whole story, to be honest. So he needs an epiphany. He needs a coming of age. And that coming of age comes next week with a surprise appearance by none other than Roddy Piper. Roddy Piper has the opening promo of next week's Raw, because he makes a surprise appearance. After they cut from Piper, they cut to the ring, where it is all dressed up for Piper's Pit. and this is a special edition of Piper's Pit. Roddy Piper said, "I'm here on behalf of Steamboat Senior to show his son where he's wrong and what he has to do to really run this show." And he invites out Richie Steamboat as his special guest. And Piper is here because he is the sort of personality that will not take any shit from Steamboat. He will call bullshit when he sees bullshit, and he sees a lot of bullshit in Richie Steamboat's approach. So he does not pull any punches telling Richie Steamboat, "You're not doing this right. You have to change your approach or you will get walked all over for the rest of your days." And he does not accept it when Steamboat tries to defend himself, because there is no defense against what Steamboat is doing. He just has to show some balls. And Piper tells him that in no uncertain terms. So it really is like a coming-of-age Piper's Pit, a coming-of-age segment, a very emotional segment in this story, because Piper does his best, the best anyone could ever do to get through to Steamboat. And after he thinks he's made his impact on Steamboat in terms of how much he can say, he calls out Jericho and says to Jericho, "This guy right here, this guy Richie Steamboat will take on whoever you choose to take on him tonight. He will do it tonight." And Jericho accepts this invitational and he chooses The Miz. It's Richie Steamboat against The Miz tonight, and in the main event. So that is the main event, and The Miz is the second transitional main eventer in this story. MVP got a little rub as a transitional main eventer as Steamboat's ally. The Miz is going to get a Steamboat's enemy, so to speak. So it's Richie Steamboat against The Miz tonight, and it starts to get a little chaotic. Jericho starts to interfere, then Piper evens the odds, then Steamboat wins cleanly. He gets his celebration, and things are starting to look up again. There's a blossom of hope that forms again, that maybe Steamboat might have something there yet, that not all hope is lost for him, and the fans just start to believe in him again, that maybe he has something. He'll start to realize what he's doing wrong. And then the next week of Raw is the last before we're going by the 2009 pay-per-view calendar, even though it's changed a lot. But the next pay-per-view is Extreme Rules, and this is the last Raw before Extreme Rules. Piper is there again. He says, "Okay, at Extreme Rules you can team with me, and we'll take on Jericho and The Miz." That's fine. Steamboat is okay with this because he's going to be with Piper and he doesn't really mind. But then Piper throws in a stipulation for Extreme Rules that it's kind of like a mixed tag rules, even though we probably wouldn't be called that. It's kind of like a mixed tag situation where Steamboat is only allowed to fight Jericho and Piper is only allowed to fight Miz, and that is not something that Steamboat likes the sound of. Steamboat is like, whoa, don't throw me in the deep end like that, I'm not ready for that. But Piper insists on it. Once again, Piper is brash, he's pulling no punches, he's not making any allowances for Steamboat because he needs to toughen Steamboat up. So Piper makes that stipulation, and after being persuaded, Steamboat says, "Okay, we'll do that." And but if I'm getting into trouble, and Piper just will not put up with Steamboat being cowardly and just not being ready to be sunk in the deep end. He's not being anywhere leaning in towards Steamboat, whereas maybe Steamboat's dad might be. That's why Piper is here. Piper is the type of no-nonsense personality that Steamboat really needs. And even though Piper is really tough on Steamboat, they do get close. And Steamboat really does think that Piper is what he needs. He's just not really getting it yet. He's getting there, but he's not anywhere near there yet. But he's on the right track. Then Extreme Rules does happen, and it gets very chaotic at the end. The sort of tag team chaos that is traditional in a tag team match, with both members of both teams brawling it out in different places. The referee has no idea what's going in both places, and it's so chaotic that the finish comes out of nowhere. But Steamboat does pin Jericho to win. He does hit a finisher, and he does pin Jericho to win. But because it's so chaotic, it doesn't really feel like Steamboat's coming, like his breakthrough moment. It's not supposed to be his breakthrough moment because it was so chaotic. It just, even though he does pin Jericho, it's not his breakthrough moment. Not yet. but he needs to pin Jericho, because then that leaves the question open for next week, for tomorrow night's Raw. What will Jericho do? How will he respond? Will Steamboat have earned his respect, or will Jericho try something else? Will Jericho take it to a new high to suit his evil wishes? So that's the question after the pay-per-view going into the next Raw. How will Jericho respond? Has some Steamboat earned his respect, or does Jericho just need to try harder to get Steamboat away? So that is the question of the next week's Raw. So that's another month of this booking challenge down. I will maybe do part 4 again, part 4 tonight, right away. But we'll see. Maybe it'll be another day, but we'll see what happens. I don't know if this how many parts is going to be yet. There'll definitely be more than one more, but we'll just see how many we get to. That's it.